All that shortly, but first to our top focus in this edition. After days of back and forth, U.S. President Donald Trump has made his biggest U-turn. He has pulled out of that meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, which was supposed to take place on June 12th in Singapore. That meeting now stands cancelled. A statement that was released by the White House a short while ago reads, and I'm quoting from that, "Sadly, based on the tremendous anger and open hostility displayed in your most recent statement, I feel it is inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting. Let this letter serve to represent that the Singapore summit for the good of both parties, but to the detriment of the world, will not take place." Now, the statement also issues a veiled threat to North Korea. It says, and I'm quoting further, "You talk about your nuclear capabilities, but ours are so massive and powerful that I pray to God that they will never be used." All right, let's go straight across now to Andrea Arenes, WION's correspondent, who's joining us from Washington, D.C. for more on this. Over the last few hours, Andrea, the entire world has been looking for an answer to the question of what led to the U.S. president pulling out of that summit, coming just hours after North Korea also dismantled its nuclear test site. The U.S. president in that statement has lashed out at the North Korean leader for the usage of hostile words. But words over actions is the priority that the president is definitely looking at, given the fact that North Korea has stuck to its end of the bargain by carrying out the dismantling of its nuclear test site today.
That's right. Even though North Korea has taken this huge step, we've just recently heard from President Trump himself. He was just giving out a statement in which he said that he has chosen to cancel this summit with North Korea. The move comes right after, he says, hostile rhetoric from the North. He, however, did point out that the United States is ready, if necessary, to respond to any foolish acts that North Korea might take. Trump also pointed out that he's spoken with the Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, and he said that the United States is ready as ever to act. He said that the door, however, is open for dialogue. So even in his letter that was released this morning, he did point out that his door is open for dialogue. There is still room for a potential summit to take place at some point. However, for the time being, due to this harsh rhetoric and strong words coming from North Korea, he has chosen to cancel this summit. And the latest he has said, coming out of the White House just a few moments ago, is that the United States is ready to act and defend itself because the U.S. will choose to protect its people.
Sure, but at the same time, is this not a loss of face for the United States, for U.S. President Donald Trump, for coming this close to actually coming to the negotiating table with North Korea, but then pulling out? Donald Trump has chosen to pin the blame squarely on Kim Jong Un in that statement, but the world is looking at his action very differently.
That's right. The world was definitely looking at this potential summit that was going to take place just weeks from now, and it does end months of diplomatic efforts and advances between Pyongyang and Washington. We could see, however, what we could see now is perhaps a return to a bellicose rhetoric from Washington and in North Korea, something that has practically defined the Trump administration with Kim Jong Un. Or we could see perhaps an open way to dialogue. We are not sure of what might take place. We could perhaps wait for a response from North Korea in the following hours. We did hear, however, from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in Congress, who said that he was asked whether this move weakened or strengthened America. He did say that America was ready for this summit, and so was President Trump, but they opted to put a pause on it and perhaps reschedule it at a later and more convenient time.
Absolutely. And given that the U.S. president's popularity ranking had taken several leaps in the run-up to this scheduled meeting as well, the figures had responded to the fact that the two leaders would come to the negotiating table after months of exchanging barbs. To what extent would this actually impact Donald Trump's popularity across the United States? He has tried to steal the credit all along for bringing North Korea to the negotiating table, but this definitely is a move that will impact Donald Trump's diplomatic efforts, to say the least.
Well, he had played the card of being able to bring Kim Jong Un to the negotiating table. However, many members of his administration had doubted that this meeting was even going to take place. Within his administration, people were saying that there was a 50% chance that it might not even take place. Across America, some people see him as a great negotiator, and he portrays himself as a great negotiator. This could somewhat hurt that reputation he's got. However, on the other hand, some people might see him as him taking a stand and a firm position on defending North America and not perhaps putting up with this strong and even threatening rhetoric coming from Pyongyang. So we don't know yet how that might impact his popularity. He's got somewhat of a firm base in some sectors of the country, other sections of the country not so much, and they might even condemn the fact that we were so close to coming to this dialogue and not coming through just weeks away from this historical opportunity.
Absolutely, and just a few hours after North Korea dismantled that nuclear test site, we're going to leave it there for the moment. Andrea, appreciate very much joining us on the broadcast with those perspectives and details. But let's take a listen in to what the president himself had to say just a short while back, saying that he is ready to quote-unquote tackle North Korea.
I'd like to begin by saying that based on the recent statement of North Korea, I've decided to terminate the planned summit in Singapore on June 12th. While many things can happen and a great opportunity lies ahead potentially, I believe that this is a tremendous setback for North Korea and indeed a setback for the world. I've spoken to General Mattis and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and our military, which is by far the most powerful anywhere in the world and has been greatly enhanced recently, as you all know, is ready if necessary. Likewise, I have spoken to South Korea and Japan, and they are not only ready should foolish or reckless acts be taken by North Korea, but they are willing to shoulder much of the cost of any financial burden, any of the costs associated by the United States in operations if such an unfortunate situation is forced upon us. Hopefully, positive things will be taking place with respect to the future of North Korea. But if they don't, we are more ready than we have ever been before. North Korea has the opportunity to end decades of poverty and oppression by following the path of denuclearization and joining the community of nations. And I hope that Kim Jong Un will ultimately do what is right, not only for himself, but perhaps most importantly, what's right for his people, who are suffering greatly and needlessly. All of the Korean people, North and South, deserve to be able to live together in harmony, prosperity, and peace. that bright and beautiful future can only happen when the threat of nuclear weapons is removed. No way it can happen otherwise. If and when Kim Jong Un chooses to engage in constructive dialogue and actions, I am waiting. In the meantime, our very strong sanctions, by far the strongest sanctions ever imposed, and maximum pressure campaign will continue, as it has been continuing. But no matter what happens and what we do, we will never, ever compromise the safety and security of the United States of America. I want to make that statement, feel very, very strongly about it. Our military, as you know, has been greatly enhanced. Will soon be at a level that it's never been before. Our approval of $700 billion this year and $716 billion next year, largely due to the help of a lot of the people with me today and standing right here, we appreciate. But we had to do that for our military, and we've done it, and hopefully everything's going to work out well with North Korea. And a lot of things can happen, including the fact that perhaps, and would wait, it's possible that the existing summit could take place or a summit at some later date. Nobody should be anxious. We have to get it right.
That is what the U.S. President Donald Trump had to say in as many words, that the U.S. is ready to tackle North Korea. This also coming close on the heels of that statement that was released by the White House. But let's also take a look at the quote-unquote tremendous anger and open hostility that the president was possibly referring to in that statement, the one that North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Cho Son-hui issued earlier this week. It read, and I'm quoting, "Whether the U.S. will meet us at a meeting room or encounter us at nuclear-to-nuclear showdown is entirely dependent upon the decision and behavior of the United States," unquote. Cho also slammed U.S. Vice President Mike Pence over his warning to Kim Jong Un, calling Pence a quote-unquote political dummy. In an interview, Pence had warned North Korea, saying it would be a great mistake, quote-unquote, to try and play Washington ahead of that planned summit with President Donald Trump. Pence said North Korea could end up like Libya if Kim Jong Un does not make a deal. Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi was killed in an uprising years after giving up atomic weapons. And let's take a look at how the much-awaited, the much-speculated talks crashed. Here's a look at the prominent dates. On the 7th of March this year, a top South Korean official visited Pyongyang, saying that Kim is willing to discuss the fate of his nuclear arsenal with the United States and has expressed readiness to suspend nuclear and missile tests during such talks. Following that, Donald Trump announced he is open to talks with Kim. Towards the end of March, Kim Jong Un made a surprise visit to Beijing, meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping in an apparent move to strengthen his leverage ahead of negotiations with Donald Trump. In April, the then CIA chief Mike Pompeo held a secret meeting with Kim in North Korea. Confirming the meeting, Trump said that a good relationship is being formed between the two countries. 3 days later, North Korea said it has suspended nuclear and long-range missile tests and plans to shut its nuclear test site as part of a shift in its national focus to improving the economy. And then came the mega inter-Korean summit. Kim crossed onto the South Korean side of the Panmunjom border village for a day-long summit with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. On the 9th of May, Mike Pompeo made an unannounced one-day trip to Pyongyang to prepare for the planned Trump-Kim summit. North Korea released 3 Americans and then who had been imprisoned earlier. The 10th of this month, Donald Trump announced he will meet Kim on June 12th in Singapore. On the 12th of May, North Korea says it will hold a ceremony to dismantle its nuclear test site. And days later, North Korea expressed its displeasure on the US-South Korea military drill and warned that the US will have to think twice about the fate of the Trump-Kim summit. Just 2 days ago, the US Vice President warned North Korea that it could end up like Libya if it did not make a deal on denuclearization with the US. In response to that statement, North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister threatened that North Korea could walk away from the summit if US sticks to what she called unlawful and outrageous acts. The back and forth conflict over the talks today finally ended, at least for now, as Donald Trump wrote to Kim Jong Un announcing that it is calling off the much speculated summit in Singapore. And in the meantime, North Korea is sticking to its end of the bargain. Pyongyang offered further demonstration to that effect today. Pyongyang has dismantled its nuclear test site at Pyongyang. Reporters who observed the dismantling of that test site said that at least 3 tunnels, observation buildings and staff quarters were blown up. North Korea had invited journalists to witness the event, which was announced last month following that declaration of the Trump-Kim summit. North Korea has conducted 6 nuclear tests at this site in the mountains on the country's northeast. The site dismantled was the only active nuclear test site in the world. Some experts say that the test site has already partially collapsed and was unusable in any case.